Life is hard. And there are times in our lives when we are in this darkness and there's this anguish that we have. I mean, even Solomon felt it. In Ecclesiastes 2:17, he says, "So I hated life, because what is done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity and striving after wind." I mean, that same thing could be said today. All is vanity with our political climate and our social climate. See, our lives at times can seem to have so much trouble and so much emptiness. We are so full of trouble, and yet we feel empty. Even as believers, life can be difficult to deal with. And sometimes even the greatest things in our lives cause us trouble. Marriage. Marriage was an institution that was started by God, and it is an amazing gift. I can't imagine my life without my wife. And even that has trouble. Paul told the church at Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 7:28, he says, "Yet those who marry will have worldly troubles, and I would spare you that." Paul wanted to spare the church of Corinthians at Corinth from having the troubles that come with being married. Worldly troubles. You know, even some of the most stable and long-lasting marriages go through moments in time where things are dark, where things are hard. And there's a lot of sorrow and pain. And even if a marriage doesn't have that, there comes this time in the life of a marriage when one of the spouses dies. And the remaining spouse has to deal with the pain and the anguish and the loss of being separated from their life partner, the person they've spent their life with. And it's hard. It's painful. And then children. Again, an amazing gift from God. And yet can lead to so much pain and struggles. I mean, we see in this video, his name is Ethan Hallmark. His parents didn't plan for that. And yet, they're having to deal with it. These things that are beyond our control, they play havoc on our lives. And our plans and our hopes for the future of our children are snatched out of our hands. And there are times when our children are taken away by life and by death. And we are completely out of control. We have no control over it. And then sometimes our kids may wander down paths that make us stay up at night. And I don't care if your child is 16, 13, or 65. They still take paths that make us hurt and worry. You know, I think of the story of the prodigal father. And I love that story, but the problem with that story is I don't think we really get the whole picture. I imagine that when that son came to his father and said, "Father, you're not dead yet, but I want my half of the money." I'm sure that father was grieved. And if you read it, there's a short period of time between when he asked for it, he gets it, and he leaves. So he's there for a little while. Then he decides, "I'm going to leave." And I can imagine that father didn't just sit there and say, "Okay, go, son, go, have a good time. Everything will be good. Okay, it's fine, no problem." I'm sure he went into his inner room with the son's mother, and he wept. He cried for his son and the choices that his son was making. Jesus understands trouble. I mean, immediately, as soon as he is baptized, he's taken to the desert, and he is in anguish. His heart is in anguish because he's fasting for 40 days. And it wasn't that he was just fasting, but at the end of that, Satan comes and tempts him. And yet, he doesn't sin. He groans. He weeps. When his friend Lazarus dies, Jesus knew he was going to raise him again. But he weeps for Lazarus' family, knowing the pain and the anguish that they're going through. His heart is broken for the city of Jerusalem. I mean, I love the image. He says, I wanted to gather you like a mother hen gathers her chicks. And yet, they turned away from him. It broke his heart. And then there was the pain and the anguish that happened in Gethsemane the night before he was crucified. Not to mention the pain of the cross and the fact that he was going to be separated from his Father. The first time in eternity that he was ever separated from his Father. The only time it ever happened. Jesus knows tribulation. He knows pain. He knows suffering. In John 16:33, he tells us, in this world you will have trouble. If you don't, consider yourself blessed. And watch out, because you may have it. We're going to have trouble, pain, anguish, sorrow, tribulation. It's all part of life, and it's a result of the original sin that Adam and Eve committed. We can't get away from it. It's part of being on this planet. And many times, it's beyond our control, and it's not our fault. And sometimes, it is our fault, because we've made the wrong choices.